Have you ever felt invisible to your partner's family? My boyfriend Kieran hung up the phone and turned back to the stove like nothing had happened. I stood in the doorway holding a stack of paint samples for the bedroom we'd just finished remodeling. "Someone you're seeing?" I said. He didn't look at me. My mom was asking about the holidays. You know how she gets. We'd owned this house together for 8 months. We'd picked out couches. We'd argued about cabinet hardware. I had an engagement ring in a box upstairs that he'd given me 6 weeks after we closed escrow, and he'd just described me to his mother like I was a Tinder match he'd been on 3 dates with. "Kieran, we literally own a house." "I know," he said. "It's just easier this way. She doesn't need all the details right now." I set the paint samples on the counter and walked out of the room. That was the first time I really heard it. After that, I started listening. 2 weeks later, his sister called while we were unloading groceries. He stepped into the hallway and I heard him say, "Yeah, things are good. We'll see what happens." Like we were a trial subscription, he hadn't decided to renew yet. At Thanksgiving, I drove to his parents' house in another state. We'd been together almost 3 years at that point. His mother hugged me at the door and said, "It's so nice to meet one of Kieran's friends." I looked at him. He smiled and changed the subject. During dinner, his father asked what our plans were. Kieran said, "We're taking it one step at a time," and his mother nodded like that was a perfectly reasonable answer for 2 people who'd just refinanced a mortgage together the month before. I excused myself and locked the bathroom door. I stared at my reflection and thought about the ring I wasn't wearing because he'd asked me to leave it at home. He said his family would make it a whole thing, and he wanted to tell them when the time was right. The time was apparently never right. Back home, I started noticing how he angled his phone away from me during family video calls, how he cropped me out of photos before sending them to his relatives, how he talked about the future in careful, non-committal terms whenever his parents asked about us, like he was narrating a documentary about someone else's life. In January, we signed a contract with a landscaping company to redo the backyard. I watched him write both our names on the paperwork, watched him commit to a 5-year plan for the garden, and then I watched him take a call from his brother and describe me as the person I'm living with right now. I started looking up real estate lawyers. The breaking point came in March. His mother was in town for a conference and wanted to take us to dinner. She sat across from me, smiled warmly, and said, "It's lovely to see you again, Clara." "My name is Iris," Kieran corrected her quietly. She laughed and said, "Oh, I'm terrible with names. Well, whoever he ends up with, I'm sure she'll be wonderful." I set my fork down. Kieran reached for my hand under the table. I pulled it back. His mother kept talking about wedding venues she'd seen online, talking to Kieran like I wasn't sitting right there, like the person he'd end up with was some future stranger and not the woman who'd been splitting utility bills with him for over a year. We drove home in silence. That night, I sat him down in the living room we'd painted together and said, "I need you to tell your family we're engaged." "I will," he said. "Soon." "When?" He looked at the floor. "I just need a little more time." "Time for what?" He didn't answer. I called a realtor the next morning. Kieran stared at the listing photos like I'd set the house on fire. "You're seriously doing this?" "I'm not signing another contract with someone who won't even use the word fiancé on a phone call." We split the equity down the middle. I found a 1-bedroom across town with tall windows and space for exactly one person's future. His mother texted me 2 months later asking if Kieran was seeing anyone seriously. I didn't respond. Now I live in a place where my existence doesn't depend on how someone else describes me. The bedroom is smaller, but at least my name is on everything.